All right, let's talk about something that's a huge deal for anyone who works with data. Can AI really take a complex business question and spit out a perfect SQL query in like under a minute? Honestly, I was pretty skeptical, so I decided to put it to the test myself.
I saw this quote and it just hits so close to home. If you've ever worked in analytics, this feeling is painfully familiar, right? You've got this burning question, you know the answer is hiding in the data, but first you have to wrestle with the code. It's this universal bottleneck, and it's exactly what we're going to try and solve today.
Look, for those of us who live and breathe data, SQL is our superpower. It's how we unlock all those incredible insights from these massive databases. But let's be real, it's also our biggest bottleneck a lot of the time. That space between a question from your boss and a real, data-driven answer, it's a maze of joins, filters, and of course, debugging.
So this is the dream, isn't it? To just ask a question in normal, plain English and get back perfect, ready-to-run code. Now, I have to admit, when I first heard this promise, I thought, no way. I mean, sure, for a simple select star query, maybe. But for a real-world problem with messy, nuanced business logic, I just didn't buy it. So I decided to find out for myself.
Because this is what's usually going on in our heads, right? It's this whole mental maze you have to navigate every single time. Okay, which tables do I need? Customers, orders. Wait, do I need the logins table too? Okay, how do I join them? Left join, inner join. Then you're triple checking your date functions. And after all that, you spend 20 minutes just hunting for that one single missing comma. We've all been there. It's slow, it's meticulous, and it's frustrating.
So, to really see what this AI can do, I'm not going to give it some easy textbook example. No way. I'm throwing it a real analytics problem, one that came directly from a stakeholder. The kind of tricky request that would normally just completely derail my afternoon. And here it is, the request. Find all customers who made a purchase in the last 90 days, but have not logged into our app in the last 60 days. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty straightforward, but it's actually really tricky because you're tracking two different behaviors across two completely different timeframes. It's a perfect test case. So to solve this, the AI has got to understand our data structure. And for this test, we've got three simple tables. We have our customers, their orders, and their app logins. The way they're connected is pretty standard, but the real challenge, the magic, is getting the logic to connect them in just the right way to answer that specific question. So if I were cackling this the old-fashioned way, by hand, this is what my brain would be doing. First, I'd have to pull a list of all the recent purchasers. Then, I'd have to pull a second list of all the recent logins. And then, the tricky part, I need to figure out who is in that first list but is not in the second. And even then, I'd have to stop and think about the best way to write the SQL. Should I use a left join with a null check or a not in clause? They each have different performance implications, and it is so easy to get one of them slightly wrong.
Okay, it is time. Let's see what the AI has got. I'm going to put a few different tools to the test here. We've got some dedicated text-to-SQL platforms like AI to SQL and Chat to DB, and just for kicks, we'll throw in a powerful general model like Claude or GPT. Let the face-off begin.
And this is what I gave each AI, the exact same prompt. No special formatting, no hints about what kind of joins to use. I didn't even give it the schema up front. I just gave it the plain English request exactly as I got it. The simplicity here is what makes this a really fair and interesting test. And the results were absolutely fascinating. So on the left, AI to SQL gave me this really clean query using a not-in subquery. It's perfectly logical, totally valid, and it works. But then look at the one on the right from Chat2DB. This is where my jaw kind of dropped. It uses something called common table expressions, or CTEs. Think of them as creating little temporary, named steps in your logic. It breaks the problem down so clearly, which makes the code incredibly readable and so much easier to debug. This is exactly how a senior data analyst would write this code. It's not just functional, it's elegant. So here's the bottom line. We just got multiple, fully functional, high-quality queries. One of them was even written with the kind of thoughtful structure you'd expect from a seasoned pro. And each one of these took less than 30 seconds to generate. So remember that initial skepticism I had? Yeah, it's pretty much gone. This is seriously impressive stuff.
But hey, a query that looks good on paper is just text until you actually run it, right? So now comes the moment of truth. Does the code actually work? I took that really elegant query from Chat2DB, the one with the CTEs, and I ran it against our actual database.
And this was the wow moment for me.
That entire mental maze we talked about earlier, mapping the tables, figuring out the joins, checking the logic, debugging for that missing comma, all of that, the AI did it all in less than 30 seconds. A task that would have taken me, honestly, probably a couple of hours of focused work. The time savings here aren't just a little bit better. They are a total game changer.
And the result? It was perfect. A clean list of exactly the customers we were looking for. I spot-checked a few of them just to be sure, and the logic was completely sound. One had an order 80 days ago, but no login for 120 days. Check. Another had a purchase last month. No logins at all. Check. It just worked. This isn't just some new tool. This feels like a completely new way of working.
So I was thinking, okay, it can write new code from scratch. That's amazing. But what about old code? We all have those slow, clunky, legacy queries that we're kind of afraid to touch. So I fed one of my worst ones, a total performance nightmare of nested subqueries, into an AI optimizer. And it didn't just clean it up, it completely rewrote it, flattening that whole mess into a single, clean CTE. But then it did something else. It even suggested adding a database index on one of the columns to make it run faster, explaining exactly why. It wasn't just a code writer anymore. It was acting like a senior database administrator.
So yeah, after this experiment, I'm a total convert. This technology is real, it's here, and it is incredibly powerful. The question really shifts now from if we should be using these tools to how. How do we integrate this into our daily workflows as a reliable co-pilot?
I think this is the absolute perfect way to think about it. The AI is your brilliant junior analyst. It's lightning fast, never gets tired, and it produces these amazing first drafts. But it still needs you. It needs your expert oversight to validate the logic, to catch the subtle business context it might miss, and to give that final sign-off.
So, based on my experience, here are my 3 biggest pro tips for working with your new AI copilot. Number 1, always validate the output. Never just copy, paste, and run. You are the expert, you are the final check. 2, context is everything. The more the AI knows about your database schema, your tables and columns, the better and more accurate its queries will be. And finally, number 3, iterate. Don't just fire off a prompt and walk away. Have a conversation with it. Start simple, and then ask for refinements to dial it in and get exactly what you need.
When you boil it all down, what this technology really is a force multiplier. It automates the most time-consuming, tedious part of our job, writing that boilercode code. And what does that do? It frees up our time. And, more importantly, our brain power, to focus on the things that humans are uniquely good at, interpreting the results, asking deeper, smarter questions, and actually developing business strategy.
And that's the fundamental shift that we're seeing happen right now. The value a great analyst provides is no longer just about their ability to write complex code from memory. With AI as a co-pilot, the role gets elevated from being a SQL writer to being a true data strategist, someone who's really driving business decisions with powerful insights. This isn't something to be afraid of. It is an incredible opportunity we should all be embracing. The data professionals who learn to master these AI tools are going to be the ones who can move faster, solve bigger and more interesting problems, and deliver way more value than ever before. The only question left is, are you ready?